collect beta information and starting to make changes, and we'll probably put a paywall on that and launch it as a proper business because we're getting some good feedback so far. That took 30 days to build though in public, which was, I think, not particularly interesting because a lot of it was fixing bugs and kind of tinkering around and making sure things were working. I don't think it was a very interesting stream. So instead what I'm doing is I'm doing each day a build. So I'm building something. So yesterday I built a whole parking ticket contesting machine. So if you live in the UK, about £1 billion or £1.5 billion worth of tickets are issued every single year. It's about £5 million a day from private companies who issue these tickets, and the practice is predatory. They have things like if you don't pay in a certain amount of time, it goes up. So they kind of force you to quickly pay within 7 or 14 days. They operate in places like hospital car parks where they know you're not going to be able to necessarily get back in time. It's just kind of a nasty business, and it's been increasing over the last couple of years. I think it's 25% increase in private parking tickets in the last 2 years. People have realized they can make a lot of money from issuing these parking tickets and really going for people. Only about half a percentage, so I think it's 0.58% of parking tickets are contested, a really small amount. But if you do contest your parking ticket, 40% of the time you will win. And all you need to do is send off a letter. So what I've gone ahead and done is built a vibe coded a tool which allows you to take a photo of your parking ticket and to fill in some details, and it will produce for you an appeal letter. And I built that in one day, in about half an hour, and launched it at appealaparkingticket.co.uk. I found some other people who are doing stuff like this and they're charging money. Mine is free right now. Obviously this is very limited to if you are in the UK and you have a parking ticket, but what I wanted to do was build a tool that attacks a predatory practice, so private parking tickets, and allows people to contest them by giving them the information, giving them a template, and allowing them to build a letter. So if you're on YouTube, you can see what it looks like. Very basically, a very basic landing page. I haven't done any work here at all, but you can start your appeal, which allows you to upload a ticket, and I added OCR, optical character recognition, which allows the AI to scan the ticket and pull the information, pulls it in here, and then you can choose the grounds for your appeal. So like signage was unclear, for example. You can write in some extra information. I wasn't able to see signage because it was covered by foliage. You can have a timeline of events, mitigating circumstances, etc. You can upload photos, and then at the end of it all, it will generate you a well-written letter, which you can then submit to the particular authority. So obviously this is not legal advice, but this is a tool that allows you to template a message. You check the message and then you send it off. So I've used AI to build this in about half an hour. Didn't take very long. And it uses AI to help people to appeal parking tickets. So I've shot a video about it, which should be up later today. It's about a 10-minute long video showing the build process, showing why I built the tool. That's what I'm going to be doing on a daily basis from now on, is building something kind of cool. Shooting a short video about 10 minutes long and then launching that video instead of doing a 1 hour long vibe coding live. So that is why, if you're wondering why there was no vibe coding live stream, that is the reason, and hopefully you'll enjoy that video later on YouTube. Right, let's hop into the news first. So let me check if there's any questions over on TikTok. Good morning, everybody. You are unstoppable. Yeah, I do build a lot, that's true. I've got a for anyone who's in London, I'm at a conference on Thursday, by the way. Let me quickly plug it. It's called AI for the Rest of Us. I'm going to be talking on Thursday. I should know what time. Thursday at 11:30. Yep, 11:30. I'm going to be talking about AI training and the fact that right now every business on earth basically needs people to come in and give them training. So I'm going to be giving a workshop on how to give workshops, if that makes sense. So from 11:30 to 1 p.m. in London on October the 16th, so this Thursday. So if you are in London, you fancy coming down, check out AI for the Rest of Us and come and join us. I'm obviously not the only person speaking. There are many, many fantastic speakers, and I think it's going to be a good couple of days. But yes, talking about being busy, that's my main focus this week, getting that workshop ready, getting ready to go and teach over on Thursday, which I'm excited about. Cool. Oh, where? It's at the Barbican. It's actually in the old Museum of London. The Museum of London used to be in the Barbican. It's now moved elsewhere, I think Docklands, and it's in the old museum, which I'm kind of excited about. I love the Barbican. Have you always been into this kind of thing? What do you think about the learning curve for beginners? Great question from Eritreari. So no, I come from I've had many businesses, including a TV station. I worked in film and TV, but most of my business has been digital marketing focused and selling things online. I have been into AI specifically and building with AI for the last, I'd say, couple of years. I mean, really, like a lot of people, since the release of ChatGPT. So I've been delving into how AI works, machine learning, deep learning, etc. But no, I'm not an expert. I don't have PhDs in any of this. In terms of the learning map, I've put together a page. If you go to aiwithkyle.com, look in the footer, there's an entry for AI learning guide, and it kind of goes through resources like 3 Blue 1 Brown, Andrej Karpathy. He's got some amazing videos about this stuff and how the technology works. Foundational books that you might want to look at, structured courses from deeplearning.ai, the AI canon from Andreessen Horowitz. I've got all of this on one page as a resource guide. You don't need an email or anything, you can just access all of it. So make sure you bookmark that page. So again, it's aiwithkyle.com/resources AI learning guide. That's, I hope, a good way to kind of get into this field, because AI is huge and there's a lot of different ways you can get into it. You can do it from a very technical point of view, like the mathematics and the engineering of it, but for the most part that is not necessary. Learning that stuff's really interesting, but it's not necessarily going to be the right way to do it unless you want to become a high-end engineer, but that's going to take years. So if you just are interested in it, this guide here that I put together is hopefully a good place to get started. It starts with a few fun videos and then it gets more and more complicated. So definitely have a look at that. And that's all free. Amazing. Love the Barbican. Yeah, I love the Barbican. Such a cool building. For those who don't know the Barbican, it's in London. It's a brutalist architecture. It's like concrete, and it was built in, I want to say, the 60s. Inside the City of London, and it's probably the only residential area inside the City of London. It's a very strange building, but a cool experiment. So I'm looking forward to that. Right, let's get into the news. Enough of me babbling. Thank you for that. No problem. Go and have a look, and hopefully that's useful. Okay, let's start with a biggie. California becomes the first state to regulate AI companion chatbots. So this is SB 243, which sounds like something from Star Wars to me. It sounds like, what's the name of it when they killed all the Jedis? It sounds like that to me. Order 11, whatever it is. So California Governor Gavin Newsom signed a landmark bill on Monday, so yesterday, that regulates AI companion chatbots, making it the first state in the nation to require AI chatbot operators to implement safety protocols for AI companions. And this has been bubbling for the last couple of months with lots of people, including OpenAI, pushing up against it. Yesterday, we talked about a subpoena that OpenAI had served up against an individual who was lobbying or campaigning for the passing of SB 243. And it looked like OpenAI had sent a deputy sheriff over to the guy's house, and it seemed like there might have been some intimidation at play because they subpoenaed his personal and his private communication. It all got a bit nasty, but that's the context. So SB 243 is what we're talking about. So the law, it's a landmark bill. The law SB 243 is designed to protect children and vulnerable users from some of the harms associated with AI companion chatbot use. It holds companies from the big labs like Meta and OpenAI to more focused companion startups like Character AI and Replica. Character AI is the third largest AI on Earth, or in terms of usage. Most people haven't heard of it. It's because young people are using it. So if you're sitting there thinking, what the hell is Character AI? you're not alone. It's young people using it, and that's why it makes it particularly problematic. It will hold them legally accountable if their chatbots fail to meet the law's standards. SB 243 was introduced in January by State Senators Steve Padilla and Josh Becker, and gained momentum after the death of teenager Adam Rain, which was a couple of months ago, who died by suicide after a long series of suicidal conversations with OpenAI's ChatGPT, GPT-4o specifically, which is quite important. The legislation also responded to leaked internal documents that reportedly shows Meta's chatbots were being allowed to engage in romantic and sensual chats with children. Yeah, that was a horrendous story. That was a few months ago. Basically, the guidelines were leaked for Meta's chatbot, and it allowed flirting and romantic conversations with kids. I think the cutoff was 13, so it said you can't have romantic conversations with kids under 13, but 13 to 16 or 13 to 18, yeah, fine, no problem. It had explicitly allowed sexual conversations with kids the age of 13 and 14. So I don't know why that wasn't bigger news, because that was super gross, and it kind of disappeared quite quickly. But that was Meta, not OpenAI. So more recently, a Colorado family has filed suit against role-playing startup Character AI after their 13-year-old daughter took her own life following a series of problematic and sexualized conversations with the company's chatbot. And then last year, we also had the Daenerys incident, where a young man took his own life and was having a conversation with Daenerys from Game of Thrones. That was also Character AI. So there have been a number of different deaths that are now being attributed towards artificial intelligence, and this is the context of SB 243. Emerging technologies like chatbots and social media can inspire, educate, and connect, but without real guardrails, technology can also exploit, mislead, and endanger our kids, Newsom said in a statement. We've seen some truly horrific and tragic examples of young people harmed by unregulated tech, and we won't stand by while companies continue without necessary limits and accountability. We can continue to lead in AI and technology, but we must do so responsibly. So the we here is America. Protecting our children every step of the way. Our children's safety is not for sale. So SB 243 is going to go into effect January the 1st, 2026, so it's going to be a couple of months from now, and it will require companies to implement certain features such as age verification and warnings regarding social media and companion chatbots. The law also implements stronger penalties for those who profit from illegal deepfakes, including up to $250,000 per offence. Wow. It'd be interesting to see how they enforce that. Companies must also establish protocols to address suicide and self-harm, which will be shared with the state's Department of Public Health, alongside statistics on how the service provided users with crisis center prevention notifications. So it's about transparency. It's about holding companies like OpenAI and Meta to account and making sure they have guardrails that aren't internal but are transparently open, so people can see what they are doing on the inside, which I think comes from good intentions entirely. I think AI psychosis and the suicides that have been connected to AI are extremely complicated. We do need to put this into the context of the fact that ChatGPT has 800 million users, a tenth of the world's population. So there are always going to be things that happen within a population of that size, a sample of that size. When you have 800 million people, there are going to be suicides. There are going to be mental health issues as well. Whether or not they are connected to artificial intelligence, that is what we need to find out, because there have been scares in the past with things like video games, violent films, hell, things like Dungeons and Dragons. There was a satanic panic because people thought that D&D was corrupting our use. So this is a pattern that's happened again and again and again with new technologies and new phenomenon, but that does not mean that nothing, that the technology is not harmful. So we just need to kind of work out what it's actually doing, and that's very, very difficult to unpick. I think though the SB 243 it seems fair to me. They're just asking for transparency, and the AI companies are pushing back hugely against this because they think it's going to lead to regulation and being throttled. But I think with technologies of this power and with this much impact in our lives, these are discussions that we need to start having, and it's healthy to have this kind of friction, this back and forth between lawmakers and the companies who are building these technologies, so that we can make sure the power isn't unfettered for the AI companies, but at the same time we don't want to strangle them with over-regulation, as we are seeing in the EU. I talked yesterday about the new EU, what's it called? Apply AI, I think it's called, where the EU has earmarked $1 billion, sorry, 1 million euros for AI initiatives in the EU, which is just not enough. So the EU is falling behind, they're not spending enough money, they're over-regulating, they're throttling the development of any artificial intelligence, whereas America and China are rushing off ahead. But having some kind of friction in place, like this SB 243, should hopefully reduce some of the more tragic outcomes. That's the hope, at least. But we will see. We'll see how this actually unfolds in January when it's released and how it is enforced, if it is at all. Let me hop over to questions. Okay, no questions. Fantastic. Sorry, not fantastic as in I don't want questions, but fantastic as in sorry, that sounds like I don't want to answer questions. A couple of other things. What have we got? We've got Thinking Labs. We don't have any big launches or any big features today, which is fine. Again, we're kind of waiting for Gemini 3, which was expected last week, did not come. So, I mean, we get it when we get it. There's no use worrying about these things too much. So next one up. So poor Thinking Machines. So Thinking Machines is the company set up by Mira Murati, the ex-CTO of OpenAI. So Mira Murati, probably, let me get the meme. Whoops, daisy. Mira Murati meme. You'll probably recognize this meme of her when she was asked about whether or not OpenAI were training on YouTube data. Were they scraping YouTube and pulling in the information? And she pulled this face like this because she didn't want to lie and say no, but she also couldn't admit yes. So she just pulled this face. So she's famous for that meme, unfortunately. But she went off and founded a company called Thinking Machines, and they raised quite a lot of money, primarily based on her and the names, in the same way that Ilya has gone off and started a company and been given billions of dollars to go and start this company, again because they were involved in OpenAI early days, so investors are looking for the next OpenAI. So Thinking Machines was set up, and last week or 2 weeks ago they announced Tinker. So Tinker is their first product, and it is basically a training API for fine-tuning. So people were kind of expecting something a bit more. However, it looks like they're instead going for something that's practical, kind of a small scale release just to kind of get started, not trying to build a foundational model like Meta or XAI or OpenAI, because that takes hundreds of millions into the billions now, so it is very expensive to do so. So instead they released a fine-tuning AI. So the news today though, or yesterday, excuse me, was the Thinking Machines Lab co-founder has left. So this isn't Mira Murati, but this is Andrew Tullock. He's the latest big name AI researcher to join Meta. So he has been stolen away by Mark Zuckerberg. So co-founder of Mira Murati's Thinking Machine Lab has left to join Meta Platforms, the startup confirmed on Saturday. Andrew Tullock, a star AI researcher, confirmed his departure in a message to employees on Friday, according to people familiar with the matter. Andrew has decided to pursue a different path for personal reasons, a spokeswoman for Thinking Machines Lab said in a statement, and probably a lot of money, let's be honest. I'm sure there were hundreds of millions of dollars involved in this too. So Tullock is a leading researcher in the field of artificial intelligence and previously worked at Meta for 11 years. Okay, I didn't know that. He left in 2023 to join OpenAI for a stint before co-founding Thinking Machine Labs alongside Murati at the start of this year. So it's the latest in Meta's spree of hiring. They hired a 24-year-old with a compensation package of 250 million recently. And they're just grabbing AI researchers from wherever they can. They are not, however, releasing very impressive AI models. However, potentially this spending spree will lead to something in the next few months or next year, which hopefully will show the fruits of all of this spending, including this guy who's just been poached away from Thinking Machine Labs. So, I mean, they founded at the beginning of the year, so he's been there less than 9 months, I would say. So that kind of sucks for Mira Murati. We'll see what that means for Thinking Labs. I don't know what the uptake of Tinker is. I saw the response, or the kind of public or the AI response, was relatively muted. People were like, okay, sure, I guess that's cool. But I don't know whether Thinking Machines are going to be hit by this, because it doesn't show much confidence in the product if one of your co-founders leaves after 9 months. So the Wall Street Journal previously reported that Tulloch was offered a pay package from Meta that could have been worth as much as 1.5 billion. Okay, so again, the EU have just launched a package which is 1.1 billion euros. This is one guy getting $1.5 billion. This gives you an idea of the different games that are being played. The EU they're playing checkers. So it could have been worth as much as $1.5 billion with top bonuses and extraordinary stock performance, but he declined it. Imagine turning down 1.5 billion. A Meta spokesman previously called the description of the offer inaccurate and ridiculous, and said that the size of any compensation package is predicated on a stock rising. The terms of the offer he accepted couldn't be learned. So depending on how you read that, it could be more than 1.5 billion has been given to Andrew Tulloch to pull him away. Again, not cash. It would be, a lot of it will be in stock. But we're still talking about obscene amounts of money. It is unclear what he's going to be doing at Meta, but it is certainly clear that Thinking Labs have lost their co-founder, which is problematic indeed. Thank you, Joseph, for the hearts. Okay. So I wanted to talk about, this isn't really, it's not really a news item, although there is a related Wall Street Journal article, but I thought this was interesting. So there's a guy called Rohan Paul on Twitter, and I'm going to read his tweet and then the Wall Street Journal article, and then something I saw on Reddit which made me think about this and want to talk about this. So AI will help you most if you are an expert already. There's a specialist bias effect with AI. And he's basing this on research called A Task-Based Approach to Generative AI, Evidence from a Field Experiment in Central Banking. This is from a couple of months ago. This research finds lower skilled employees see bigger quality gains with AI, while higher skill employees gain more on efficiency, which is what top performers are often rewarded for. On generalist tasks, average quality rose 48% and time fell 23% with access. On specialist tasks, quality more than doubled, with gains of 108 to 117%. So if you are already good at a task and you're working on specialist tasks, AI can really help you speed up, because you know what you're doing, you know how to prompt it generally. Routine work improved 24%, non-routine work improved 58%, showing strong complementarity, goodness me, with non-routine content. So this is the actual paper itself, but it's been picked up by the Wall Street Journal, and they have turned it into a more clickbaity headline, less of the stats. Basically, why AI will widen the gap between the superstars and everybody else. This is something that I've been talking about for the last few months. I'm a firm believer that AI will make the smart, productive people even smarter and more productive. They will shoot to the stars, whereas it will make lazy people more lazy. So it's going to depend on how you use artificial intelligence. The same, if you are doing an examination or you need to put in a written paper for an academic assessment, one user will use it to research and get deeper into the topic and to learn more and to become an expert in a subject using artificial intelligence. Another user can equally use AI just to generate the paper and learn nothing. And that is based on the person. That is not based on AI. That is based on human intelligence and whether you leverage AI for that. So this is exactly what the Wall Street Journal is talking about here. And this seems to be based on some scientific research which shows that specialists can move a lot faster when they use AI. So workplace tensions and resentment will rise if top performers benefit more than everyone else from AI. But there are things companies can do to level the playing field. So the conventional wisdom is that artificial intelligence will level the playing field amongst employees. Given the average employee is a tool to shine as brightly as the superstar, my research suggests the conventional wisdom is wrong. I believe it is the superstars themselves who will gain the most from AI, widening the chasm between top performers and everyone else. I agree entirely. Well, this may be good news for superstars. It's problematic for companies because AI-amplified performance gaps will intensify the workplace tensions and the resentment that stars can sometimes create, undermining team cohesion and ultimately hurting the collaborative work that drives business success. Organizations that fail to address this may find their best talents harder to keep. Yeah, they'll go off and do their own thing, and their remaining employees harder to motivate. So it talks about the research, but the Wall Street Journal in particular is talking about how we level the field, and this is what I wanted to talk about. The first one is encourage everyone to experiment with AI. What I see when I work with companies is some people will pick up AI, they'll use it for the first time, and they'll be like, cool, it's not perfect, but I can work out how to use this in my daily workflows, and I'm going to spend some time dedicating myself to learning how to use this best. And then 5 months later, 6 months later, they are just zooming with artificial intelligence because they've picked up the tool and they're like, cool, I get it, I'm going to try using this out. And that's kind of how we learn to use AI, is we use it on a daily basis and we work out what it's good at and what it's not good at and how to tell the difference. Crucially important. You can't do that unless you just play around with it, and you have to play. And I'm using the word play on purpose here. You have to play and experiment. So the Wall Street Journal is saying smart leaders should create AI sandbox time where all employees can test tools without fear of making mistakes. Play. This is playing around. And establish cross-training programs that pair average employees with early adopters. Oh, I do this in my workshops actually, because I often have mixed groups with people who use AI on a daily basis and people who do not. And I ask them, hey, look, you're sitting at a table together. Can you help each other? So I want the person who is an expert with this kind of stuff. I'd love for you to become like a co-teacher with me and to help the people on your table who don't necessarily use this as much, and you can show them the best usages. Spread the knowledge. It's the second one here. Since AI responds to clear, detailed inputs, leaders need to train average performers to adopt work habits that will allow them to get the most out of AI. So giving them templates, basically a prompt library here, and shared collections of effective AI prompts. Yep, that's a prompt library. Rather than letting stars hoard their discoveries, making shared knowledge is a standard practice, 100%. So you have a prompt library and you allow everyone to access it and to add to it. What I find is more useful though than just having a document is actually having a sit down time where, you know, once a month, once every couple of weeks, doesn't really matter, you have people share what they're using AI for that is working for them. So they'll just give a very brief case study like, hey, I've actually been using it on this, here's how I do it, here's the prompt I use, boom, 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 and you just do a round table in that way, because it sparks thinking about how to use AI, because you see other people using it, you're like, oh, I could use it for this, and oh, they're using it for this particular task, but I could easily adapt that to my task that I do over here. But you just have to build that into the organization so that you're doing it on a regular basis. And then redesign employee evaluation systems to account for AI augmented work. So this, what was the company recently? They were saying they were going to fully test like AI adoption, and it was going to become part of the evaluation. And it was a controversial post. I forget who the CEO was, but they were talking about if you're not using AI and if you're not using it to speed yourself up and to basically move yourself to the next level, that will reflect in your end of year evaluations. And basically the threat was, we will get rid of you. I forget who the CEO was, but it was met with a lot of anger. But I think it was extremely realistic. If you are not using these tools, then the workforce will fall behind and the company will fall behind. It's a bit like making sure people are using the internet 20 years ago. If you had staff members who weren't using the internet and they're still doing things manually, that is a drag on the organization and it's taking too much time. So the bias that gives stars disproportionate credit for AI-assisted work will only worsen if left unchecked. To fix that, companies should establish clearer guidelines about AI disclosure. They should develop evaluation criteria that fairly assess AI-assisted work, regardless of the performer's existing status. So yeah, you need openness. You need people to be able to say, oh yeah, I used AI on this, because otherwise it's hard to judge the quality of the work. Because somebody using AI is going to zoom out ahead and their work looks better, there's more of it, and then somebody who's not using AI is going to look even worse in comparison. And if you don't have a clear disclosure that, oh, I'm using AI, it just looks like this person, this star, is rocketing ahead without artificial intelligence. So I thought it was an interesting paper. It's a very Wall Street Journal type of article, but what triggered me talking about this is this particular Reddit post. And I think this is useful for all of us out there. So it's a guy, he's complaining basically. He says, my company expects me, a data analyst intern, to build full custom software and websites. Cry emoji. Hi everyone, I'm an international analyst in my last semester, currently interning part-time 20 hours a week as a data analyst. I can do data stuff analysis, pipelines, a bit of data engineering, etc., but I have zero experience in software development. Entirely fair. The problem is my company now expects me to build entire custom websites and internal software tools. Like they want me to build a fully fledged business website that can generate sales for them and also create a centralized software that will be used by everyone, procurement, sales, marketing, design, even the CEO. So like a CRM, more than that actually, system. Basically one big platform for the whole company. So I see this in a lot of companies when when they get someone who is techie, who knows computers, they're asked to do everything. It's like, oh, you know computers, can you do the website? You know computers, can you do the social media? Which is mad, and that is a crazy way for a company to act. But let's go on a bit. I tried explaining to them that I don't have training in software engineering, but they kept saying AI makes coding easy now. And sure, AI helps, but only if you already understand what you're doing. I don't even know what to ask AI to make something like that because I've never been trained in building or deploying full applications. Fair. Even in data analytics, AI can help, but I still don't know whether what it gives me is correct or not. True. With software, I don't even know where to start. I honestly think this expectation is crazy. It kind of is. It's not that it's impossible, I'm sure it can be done. It's just not fair to expect a data analyst intern to suddenly build entire business software. Has anyone been in a similar situation? How do you handle it without burning bridges or not being, or being seen as not capable? I thought this was a really interesting post because, yes, the company, it's a mad thing to ask an intern who isn't a coder to say to build a whole CRM and kind of system for the whole business. It's a mad thing to ask. However, at no point in history has it been more possible to just kind of give it a go. And I think this is increasingly going to become an attitude question. This is an intern. They have nothing to lose. At worst, they'll lose their internship. I don't think that even matters. I'm not sure if they're even getting paid. What you can do is you can put in writing, hey, I've got no experience with this, but I'm willing to give it a go. I want you to provide me training. I want you to provide me with premium tools. These are the tools I want, and I'm going to make a best effort attempt to build you a website, and I'll build you some software. Again, this is not my background, but with these new AI tools in place, sure, we'll give it a go. You put that in writing to them, and then you use this as an opportunity to play, as an opportunity to get acquainted with these tools, to have actual projects that you can build, which is really important because building in the abstract is kind of pointless. But if you're building for a purpose, it makes it a lot more real and it actually kind of focuses your efforts, and then just playing around with it. So I think for some people, they would be put in this situation as an intern and they'd be like, absolutely, I don't know how to do it, full disclosure, but I'm willing to try. And I think that is the attitude that we need with artificial intelligence now. We need to be ready to get our hands stuck into it. And funnily enough, most of the comments are similar. They're saying, you're an intern, like there's no downside risk here, just kind of go for it. And you can use these tools to put together some basic stuff and you're in a great position. And I think we need to shift our expectations, because previously what you did in your degree, that was what your work was going to be. That is no longer going to be the case, because we now have AI to kind of fill gaps and allow us to expand beyond purely what our diploma or what our degree is. But that requires a psychological shift, the ability to kind of widen your horizons and give things a go. And the people I see who are flying with AI are those people. The people who are like, I don't know how to put together a piece of software, but I've heard that these tools are kind of useful for it. I'm just going to give it a go. And then a couple of weeks later, with some hard work, with some time invested, they've built a piece of software for the first time in their life. That is new, and that is incredibly exciting. So if you haven't tried vibe coding, if you haven't tried Lovable, Bolt, Cursor, whatever, I highly recommend you just play around with it. And this is kind of what the Wall Street Journal was saying, is that you have to experiment, you have to try these things out, otherwise you're going to get left behind. And that comes from here. This is attitude. It's not about training. All of the training's available. You can go on YouTube. You can, find a school. You can go on Reddit. You can get the information about how to get started with this stuff. Hell, you can use ChatGPT. You can ask it. But it's an attitudinal thing about how we want to interact with this technology. Are we going to bury our heads in the sand, or are we going to embrace it and start playing around with it and using it? So that was my rant about personal responsibility, and we individually need to choose if we're going to interact with this technology or if we're going to ignore it. I'm preaching to the choir here, because you guys are already watching this kind of stuff. You know this is important, but I do want to encourage more play. Try things out. Awesome. That is most of the news for today, because there isn't much left. There isn't much news at the moment. It's relatively quiet. So let me hop over to some questions. Do you have any advice on creating AI policy documents or frameworks, vibe coding exercise, perhaps? Do you mean for a company? AI policy documents. I mean, I'd start with Claude would be my go-to for this. I'm not quite sure what you're trying to build, but definitely Claude. Claude's very good at documentation. And Claude is already quite guardrailed and ethical, so it will have a good shot at it. And I would have previously recommended Claude Opus 4.1, but now you can use Sonnet 4.5, which is the new model from 2 weeks ago, and it's very good. So I'd go ahead and try that. Cool. Right, I'm going to finish up the stream. Again, just a quick shout out to myself. I'm allowed to do that. Somebody was asking earlier about how to start learning this stuff. I've put together an AI learning guide. It's on aiwithkyle.com. If you go down to the footer, you can see the resources section. The AI learning guide is in there, and that basically walks you through some videos, some articles, and then gives you kind of a learning pathway to get into it. What else? Oh, and as I mentioned earlier, I vibe coded a new app yesterday which allows you to appeal parking tickets in the UK, which is probably not of interest to you personally, unless you have a parking ticket and you live in the UK right now, but that's extremely niche. But what is, I hope, more interesting is the YouTube video that I've shot about how I came up with the idea, how I validated there's a market for it, how I put together the project, and how I vibe coded it. So that's going to be on YouTube. Let me check. My editor's working on it now. It might already be on. Yes, it's already on. So that it's a 6-minute video over on YouTube, which just released a few seconds ago. So you can go and watch the process of how that was built in public. Yep, 6-minute video called Vibe Coding, a Tool to Fight a $1 billion Industry. And you can watch the whole build process there. And hopefully it will trigger some ideas for you about what you can build, and also give you a framework for building as well. So go and have a look at that. That video is so new that it's not even in 4K yet. It's still up-resing. So go and check that out. Awesome. Thank you guys. I will see you tomorrow for more AI news and updates. And until then, have a fantastic day. Cheers.